I'm dying. I literally just figured out that my mic has not been connected for who knows how many podcast episode recordings. I went into my settings and normally, like prior to who knows, I don't know, maybe it's like the last 5 episodes that I've recorded that it hasn't been recording with my mic, even though my mic is plugged in and right here in front of me. I was just listening back on my last episode and I was like, wow, why does the audio sound so bad? That's so weird. And then I went into my settings and I was like, oh my gosh, my mic has not been connected. So thank you for just being here through all of the ups and downs of this podcast. And I hope that it was still valuable, however many episodes it's been since I have not had my mic connected. And you're like, wow, why does the audio sound so bad? You have a mic. That's so weird. So thank you for being here with me. And so sorry for the crappy audio. And hopefully from here on out, it's a huge improvement. But I just had to share that because I'm sure well, maybe you haven't been wondering it and you were just like, oh, I had no idea. Or now you're like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, your audio has really sucked recently. But, that's just the realities of being an entrepreneur. And I was just laughing about it. So I wanted to share with you. Okay, let's dive into the episode today. I want to rewind time to 2021. I was doing a 30-day reel challenge to try and grow my Instagram account. And this was all focused on my network marketing business because that's what I was running at the time. And I want you to think about 2021 because this was when Reels were still really, really new. October of 2020, I think, is when Reels originally first came out. So at the very beginning of 2021, Reels were still very, very new. They were all the rage. And there were a lot of creators that were doing these 30-day reel challenges, which sound fancy, but they really weren't anything crazy. It was just people who were posting 30 reels in 30 days. So just one reel a day, which now is like, again, very typical of how people post. But like back then, that was all the rage. Kind of like think about this with trial reels. Trial reels are all the rage right now. People are growing tens of thousands of followers with trial reels. That's how it was back in 2021. And I wanted that. I saw that people were doing these 30-day reel challenges. They were growing not just 1,000, not just 2,000, but like 10,000, 100,000 followers. And I knew that if I could grow my following, I would grow my business and my network marketing team because I was in the routine already of selling daily on my Instagram stories. I had an email list that well, I had an email list. I mean, really at the time, it was just like a few friends and some family. But I was in the routine of selling, and I knew that with my optimized Instagram account with new traffic, I would increase my revenue through that. And so I took to posting reels daily in hopes of blowing up my Instagram account. 30 days in, so having posted one reel a day for 30 days, nothing. Like literally no growth. I'm not exaggerating. There was no growth, but I was determined to grow. So I kept going. 60 days in, a few hundred new followers, which did feel like somewhat exciting at the time because only the people who were following me prior to that were family, friends, and like friends of friends. I had 2,000 followers. So you can imagine like the circle of people were just the people I had gone to high school with. And again, some family and some friends. And so a few new 100 people who I didn't know who were following me, like that was exciting. But again, I wasn't growing the tens of thousands of followers that these other creators were growing, having done these 30-day reel challenges. But I was still determined, though my spirits were definitely a little bit lower at this point. So I continued on. 90 days in, a few hundred more followers, but still not the thousands that I had hoped for. Then, at 104 days in, I had several reels start to take off and I grew to 10,000 followers overnight. And I should say overnight with air quotes because I had just posted 120 times over the last over 100 days. And so it wasn't overnight by any means, but a few of those reels that had taken off were part of a reel series called Instagram Hacks That I Bet You Didn't Know. And if you've been around since I posted that series, you are literally an OG. Like you've been around since the very beginning. And now that Instagram series You've probably seen a bunch of people post like Instagram hacks I bet you didn't know. I was the very OG of that series. No one else had done that prior to me doing that back in 2021. And it performed so well. And it was one of the biggest reasons that I grew to 100,000 followers within 4 months of like, sorry, once I hit 10K, then I grew to 100,000 followers in 4 months after that. Hitting that first 10K definitely took a little bit longer time. But a big reason that I hit that initial 10K and then again into 100,000 followers was because I was posting the Instagram hacks I bet you didn't know series. And I went on to post 27 parts in this series over a few months. And so I didn't post them all back to back. I posted like one or two, maybe three of those per week over a few months. And like I said, in 4 months, I had grown to 100,000 followers. And a big part of that was because of my Reel series. Now, guess what is one of the best ways to grow in 2026? Content series. I have now ran 2 content series in the last 2 months, and they're just absolutely crushing, especially with a new Reel series feature where you can link all of your Reel series together in one spot and they appear on your profile in this like beautifully curated little like, I guess like little playlist library of all of your different Reel series that people can watch. And I absolutely love this feature, not just because of Instagram growth, but also when we think about sales and consumer behavior in 2026, on average, it takes someone 40 touch points before they buy from you. Now, touch points are going to look so different to each person. Someone might watch an Instagram story, read an email, see one of your reels. Like those are all different touch points. And touch points, again, can be a lot of different things. And typically, this takes, so that getting to that 40 touch points, it takes weeks, if not months, to get to those touch points. But what can decrease the time to buy and build trust really fast is to get them to spend more time with you in one sitting. And this is a huge reason why I have this podcast, because I know that if you spend time with me, you are going to trust me way more than if you watched, 1 or 2 7-second B-roll reels from me, right? That might be the way that you came into my world, but if you're going to feel connected to me, if you're going to trust me, especially to join into something that's a high ticket offer, you need way more time with me, right? And this Reel series feature, let's just say that you have a 7-part Reel series that are all 60 seconds parts. Wow, 60-second parts each. That is 7 minutes that someone is spending with you, which is going to build the know, like, trust factor a lot faster than them watching 7 B-roll videos over a few weeks, right? Because they're sitting down, they're watching this entire Reel series all at once. If we are talking about the best way to generate sales in 2026, specifically if we're talking about mid to high ticket sales, it's to saturate the conversation around the topic of the offer that you are that your offer is on, right? And so what does that look like with Reel series? Well, now you're able to think strategically about, okay, what topic is my offer and how can I create a Reel series that's going to get people to spend a lot of time with me to build that know, like, trust factor in one sitting and then join into this mid to high ticket offer. And you're able to get undivided attention if they tap into that Reel series. And so you can saturate that conversation around the topic through multiple episodes in a short amount of time. So anyways, all of this to say that series are so much more than just for Instagram growth. They're going to help sales so much, but you have to think about the strategy behind the topic of the Instagram series and not just like, oh, I'm creating a series and, like that alone is going to do it. You want to think about almost reverse engineering it from what do people need to know, like, feel, ask, do, be, have in order to be a good fit for my mid-ticket to high-ticket offer? How can I implement that into a content series, knowing that that content series, again, it's going to help people to spend more time with me. I'm going to be able to saturate conversation. I'm getting their undivided attention mostly undivided attention during that Reel series. And I say undivided attention because the way that the Reel series works is when someone taps on that little button that says, watch the series, or they find that series from your Instagram profile, they're not getting any other recommended posts popping up in there. So no one else's, it's not like scrolling through the Reels tab where, so-and-so's Reels popping up over here and then so-and-so's and then yours is popping up and then so-and-so's and then maybe you have another one that pops. No, it's like these are all just yours and people are spending time there. So That is a little side tangent, but they help with sales if you're strategic about it. Now, I want to break down the numbers and the strategy behind both of the series that I have posted. The first series that I want to break down is my content setup, which is a 5-part series that I ran. And I created this series because I wanted to share that content creation can be easy when you use a teleprompter and the front camera, and that you don't need a bunch of expensive gear like a very fancy camera and all these fancy lights or whatnot to have really good video quality. And the results of this content series, as of right now, it is going to continue to grow because it's in a content series, which is going to live for, well, I guess I shouldn't say forever, but however long Instagram decides to keep content series, that little feature where it's on my profile, however long they decide to keep that, it's going to continue to gain traffic because people are now going to have it as an easier access place for watching that reel series. So again, as of right now, 636 new followers, 116,000 new views. And this is my newest, well, actually, technically, this is not my newest series as of me recording this because I just posted a new part 1 to a new series as of 2 hours ago before I recorded this, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute. But this is my newest complete series, I should say. And I learned a lot from the very first series that I ran, which was Bought Back by AI. And I'm going to break that one down here in just a second. But I learned a lot from that first series that helped this one perform better. So I want to talk through what things I learned. The first thing that I learned is that you want to keep the reels shorter, at least for me in my niche. 60 to 70 seconds is really the sweet spot. Anything longer than that, I have a hard time keeping attention. Anything shorter than that, I just have a hard time sharing the information that I need to share. So right around 60 to 70 seconds is really perfect. Number 2 is add in questions. Like, for example, inside the actual like reel itself, saying something like, I'm going to share 4 different audios, let me know which one you like the best, and then sharing those audios and then having people comment, what audio did you like the best, and they want to keep listening because they want to hear the 4 different audio versions. Or you could even say something again while you're speaking, like maybe, oh, I'm going to share 5 tips with you, the last tip is the most important, or like tip 5 is the most important for XYZ reasons. And then you're going to start with tip number 1. So that way people have to keep listening all the way to the end of your reel to listen to tip number 5, which you told them is the most important for whatever reason. So that's going to help with retention there. The next thing that I learned is the first sentence, as well as the second sentence, and the text hook that pops up on screen are really, really important. You want the text hook to be different than the first sentence that you speak. So your verbal hook versus the text hook that pops up on screen, they need to be different. There should be, though, a similar variation. Like the text hook shouldn't be like super, super random and like very, very, very different than obviously the topic of the reel. It should just be a different way to present the topic of the reel that might catch someone's attention differently than your verbal hook. You should be spending about 80% of the time in your content creation process on your verbal hook, your text hook, as well as that second sentence. And that is because watch time and skip rate, when it comes to the algorithm, are the number one things that the algorithm is looking at right now. And hooks are what help that metric the most. So if you're looking at skip rate and watch time, people have to get through the first 3 seconds, the first 5 seconds to be able to, watch the rest of your reel. So your hook is really, really important. Something that I wish that I would have done differently with this content series specifically is actually have people comment to get the links to the tools that I was mentioning, because that would have increased engagement. That would have also then increased reach. And I also could have made affiliate commission from that. But truthfully, the reason why I didn't do that is because I was lazy and I just wanted to put out the content series and I didn't want to set up the direct message automations connected to that. But looking back, I wish that I would have taken the time to do that. And honestly, I still could go back and do that, because now with the content series being basically like pinned to my profile, it's going to continue to get traffic. And so I could always go back and add in that direct message automation, but it's not necessarily going to help to like crazily increase like engagement and reach. It would just be anyone who now sees that moving forward who might want to comment, might be able to like, they might purchase something through my link or something like that. The thing that I think helped increase views, though, is after I spoke my first sentence, I did kind of like a little transition. So the first sentence was anywhere between like 5 to 7 seconds. And then I did a different clip. And what that looked like. It was a different angle and it was a different like depth as well. And so that helped to capture attention. And I say transition, it wasn't like I was touching the camera screen and changing outfits or any, like, not that type of crazy transition. We're not going back to 2021 transitions. But transition in the sense of like it was a different video clip at a different angle with a different depth. And so it did help to capture attention that way. And it helped to hold attention as well. So there was that like little transition there in between my first sentence, and then I introduced the series name, and then I continued with the rest of the information throughout the rest of the reel. Now, number 2 series that I ran was my Bought Back by AI, and I did 6 parts to this series. I created this series because I see so many people, so many people. This is like one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to AI and social media content. So many people are sharing just absolutely useless crap that they're using AI to build just to go viral because they know that they're going to go viral, but they don't actually use it. They didn't actually build it in like a strategic way, or they're not actually just doing whatever they're telling you to go out and build. Like they're just doing it because they know that you're going to want it and it's going to go viral. So I wanted to share the things that I'm truly using AI to build and do. And that content series was a really big hit. And again, this was the very first content series that I created within the last 2 months. Obviously, I've created a lot more content series, but specifically within the last 2 months, that was the first one that I created. And the catchphrase with this series is bought back. So I said bought back by AI. So that was the title of the series. And then I said sharing how I'm using AI to buy back my time and my money. And I added a little catchphrase to this series because I wanted to clarify what the series name meant. The first content series that I talked to you about was my content setup. That was the name of the content series, which is like pretty clear. Like my content setup, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get out of the series just based off of that title. But Bought Back by AI is a little bit more on the creative side of things. And so I wanted to add that catchphrase, sharing how I'm using AI to buy back my time and my money, to just make sure that people really understood what that content series is going to be about. Results wise, I had 79,000 views. And again, this is at this moment right now, that's continuing to grow. 283 new followers. So not as many new followers from that one, but I did gain 800 new email subscribers, and this series also helped me to land my biggest brand deal to date. And it also helped me to sell round 2 of Our Rich, which was an offer that I sold at the time, which brought in $17,000. So a lot of really awesome things that happened from this content series. A little bit different purpose to this content series than the My Content Setup series, though. Something that I wish that I would have done differently with Bought Back by AI is only half of the reels in this series actually had an email list sign up. And that is simply because I was too lazy to set it up for every single reel. But looking back, I wish that I would have made the effort, because I know that I could have easily doubled my email list growth from this Instagram series just by simply doing that, because I was having people comment to get access to like a prompt or to get access to a guide that I had created, but I was just delivering that in the actual automation itself. And so it wouldn't have actually been that hard for me to just collect an email before I delivered the prompt. But again, hindsight 2020, like I if I could go back and do things different, that's why I'm telling you here, like it would be worth the time and energy and effort. But you live and you learn. Okay. Now I loved the Bought Back by AI series because it was unique in the positioning of it. The series name was also unique, whereas the content setup is something that a lot of people are posting about. It's not super unique in that sense. And the other thing that I'll say about this content series is something that helps with conversion. So moving from the reel to the sale is that the topic of the reel series was tied directly into the offer that I was selling. And so when I was talking earlier about how content series don't only have to be for Instagram growth, they can also be for sales, I was very strategically using Bought Back by AI to saturate the conversation around how I see AI and how I'm using AI to then move people into Our Rich and sell them into Our Rich. And that is a huge reason why Our Rich did pretty well for a low ticket offer. And again, it was the strategy behind that content series. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm creating a content series just to go viral and get a bunch of followers. I wanted to strategically utilize that to sell people into my offer. And so once people saw what was possible with AI through my reel series, they wanted to learn more about AI and not just build these one-off projects, but learn how to actually create a system that solves and gives them back their time and money problem. And so the reel was in part a credibility play, showing that I know how to use AI, but it was also a value add because I gave it all away for free. And then I only shared the paid offer in that follow up direct message automation. And that was really awesome because then people were like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I only imagine, how amazing her paid offer is and how much time and energy and money and all that's going to save me by being inside of that. I want to get inside of that. So that was something that did work well that I would do again if I were to launch a new offer. I would definitely create a content series and utilize a content series basically in my launch process. Now, additional series tips, these are kind of just like things that I've learned that I would definitely recommend if you're running a series. Start with a hook, not your series name. So, for example, with Bought Back by AI, I'm not starting off the reel by saying, welcome to part 3 of Bought Back by AI, yada yada yada. Like, I'm saying a different hook. Like, for example, I just used AI to build me a testimonial wheel. And then I will say something like, welcome to part 1 of Bought Back by AI, where I show you how I'm using AI to buy back your time and your money. And then I'll go into like, this is why I built the testimonial wheel. And so I'm using it like as almost like an interruption. So like really in between like 7 to 14 seconds into the reels where I then introduce the content series name. The next tip is to try and make your editing consistent. So there's not just name familiarity with the series, but also visual familiarity, meaning that people are more likely to stop scrolling when they see that like the editing, the way that the series video is structured is the same because they're like, oh, this is, another part in Maya's series. I'm going to click into that. The next tip that I have is to add something like part 3 of 5 behind the scenes of my content setup as the very first line of your caption so people can very easily see that this is a series. Yes, there is the little button that says watch this series if you have that feature and you've connected your reel into that. But you also want to make it sure that it's really, really obvious, like this is part of a series, because the whole part of a series, like people are going to keep coming back. You want them to watch prior parts. You want them to stick around to watch future parts. And so when they see like, oh, this is part 3 of 5, I wonder what she has to say in part 4 and part 5. So anyways, that's just a little tip there. And that's super easy to just add at the very top of your caption. Now, I don't want this episode to get any longer than it is, so I'm going to leave it at this for the episode in terms of tips and talking about content series, but I do have more to share on Reel series. So if you want more, in the show notes, you can grab a free breakdown of some of my content series, or some of my favorite content series that I've seen of other people's content on Instagram, why I think they worked well, and what you can learn from them to also help you to build a successful content series of your own. And then I'm also giving you access to my content series library, which is basically just a fancy word for saying all the different links that I've collected over time of content series that I've liked of other people's that you can use for inspiration to build your own successful series. Again, that is linked down in the show notes for you.